Use your powers for evil.
Your evil is mine.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Next Stop Everywhere, your one-stop shopping for Doctor Who and train talk. Hi, I'm Jesse Jackson, and my fellow companion is Charles Skaggs. Good morning, Charles.
Good morning, Jesse. How are you today?
I am great. I am excited to talk about the Mummy episode. Tell me, what were your thoughts about A Mummy on the Orient Express?
My thoughts were basically that this had a very old school feel to it, especially at least in the first half. Um, the setting, aboard the train, for a lot of people who, younger people that may not realize this was actually like based around the novel Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. That was from 1934. So, but just given a sci-fi twist, and with a murder aboard a train car, and and you have the doctor in this case. He's playing an investigator and has to go around questioning various people to gain information and figure out what's going on. So I thought that this was a really good episode, and I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts about it.
Yeah, I was really happy with this episode too. Not only because I thought it was a good story, but I think it gives us some interesting things to discuss. Um, I um, I really loved how Clara looks. She dresses really well in her period costumes, and her 20s dress looked really nice. She had a she looked, she's always very attractive, but she looked especially cute with the 20s dress, the low scoop back, and it was really good to see her. Um, though I don't know, there's there's a lot to talk about her and the doctor's relationship. But before we get to that, let's actually talk about the mystery. The doctor has done this before, right? We went to on the Titanic, which was not the Titanic, but a spaceship named after the Titanic. And now
Right.
we're at a space train that is named after the Orient Express. It's an exact duplicate, except it's bigger, and of course, it's in space. So,
Right.
and the rails are different.
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny. Um,
Yeah, they're hyperspace,
yes.
byways, or whatever you want to,
Yeah.
however you want to sciencey Y&C explain it.
Yeah. This show always does a great job on costumes and sets, but this was an especially very rich set and very cool to watch, especially then when you reveal it's a lab.
Right.
Um, so I was very, very happy with it. I enjoyed the teaser, and I thought it was a really good mystery. So, um, and we've got the little kind of throwback to the Eccleston Mummy episode when "Are You My Mummy?" I kind of thought that was pretty a fun little line that had many meanings.
Yeah, exactly. And especially considering that was like Stephen Moffat's first big story on Doctor Who. So that was a nice little nod. And yeah, especially with having a mummy there, you got to use that line. It's just a given.
Absolutely. I saw that Jamie Matheson had written it. He's done some Being Human
Yes.
episodes. I don't know his work very much. How about you? Any?
I know him from actually a little show called Dirk Gently, which
Mhm.
was based on the Douglas Adams character.
Right.
And it was only like a short-lived series. It was only like 4 episodes, I think. But yeah, he has a really good way with dialogue and pacing. And so I was kind of curious to see, because he's new to Doctor Who, and he's also doing Flatline next week's episode. But
I saw that.
yeah, so I was curious to see how he did, and I thought he did really well overall. I thought this episode flowed nicely. The banner was great. There was a creepy monster, although the revelation of what the monster is kind of like filtered off. But overall, I think it was a really solid Doctor Who episode.
Yeah, I really liked the high noonish clock showing on the screen. You know, that once you clicked it, the 66, 69. Yeah, 66 seconds
66.
was really a nice touch.
Yeah,
And
that's a good narrative tool because it adds tension
yes,
automatically because you've got that countdown clock and you're like, okay, clock's ticking, things are going to happen. So
yeah.
yeah, thought that was a really effective tool.
Um, I did the reveal of what the monster was. The mummy was a soldier that had been programmed to keep on fighting and now had gotten so old that kind of it. The way I'm just thinking of it is his programming had eroded so much that all he knew is, attack, recharge, attack again. Did that bother you a lot, or just it was just a factor in the story?
I think it was just a factor, but I thought, here we're getting more soldier emphasis in the storytelling. Like
I
there's
thought that of too.
this seems to be a really running theme during the course of series 8 is the subject of soldiers, war, and how the Doctor relates to that. So I'm sure that's not coincidental. I'm sure that's deliberate. But the question is, okay, so who is actually this soldier that's underneath all that from way back when? We don't know how far in the future this episode was set.
Right.
So
we do know that one of the planets is now destroyed that he's talking about.
Right. So the question is like, who is that soldier? And or at least, I'm kind of wondering, maybe it's not important, but maybe there is some importance, and we'll find out who that soldier is at some point.
I want to come back to that theme in a minute. The Gus. Do you think we're going to see him again? And even though we didn't see him but hear him, I thought Gus was a great 3-named letter. I thought of HAL and IBM, so I'm trying to figure out. Okay,
and
Gus,
Jarvis.
Yes,
Jarvis from the Avengers movies.
Yeah,
Iron Man.
The whole IBM is one step above HAL. Is the urban legend of how they got their name. You're looking at me like you've never heard that story.
No.
Okay.
I mean, I know of HAL because of 2001. That's a science fiction staple. But
yeah. So the rumor is that IBM wanted to be a step above HAL.
Mm-hmm.
So if H goes to I, A goes to B, L goes to M, IBM.
Interesting.
Yes.
I've never heard that one, but
yes,
that's interesting.
That is an urban legend. I don't know if that's true or not.
I don't think it is because IBM's short for International Business Machines.
Right.
So,
but it is kind of convenient. You go back to the line that says shield. Sounds like someone really wanted our name to spell shield.
Right. Acronyms are fun.
Yes, it is. So I was trying to think of Gus and if that could be an acronym or something on. So your thoughts? Are we going to hear or see Gus again?
I don't know because Gus, this was really interesting to me because we don't really get to see the villain behind everything. And Gus seemed to be more like a tool that was being used. I mean, it was a computer, presumably, unless it was like some voice altered persona taken on by whatever big bad villain is behind the scenes. But the Doctor made a point of referring that whoever orchestrated these whole events aboard the train with the Foretold and Gus and getting all the scientists aboard and wanting to study their demises was apparently the ultimate goal here of how they died. And the running theme of death throughout the course of the season makes me wonder if Missy's behind this whole thing, even though we didn't get to see her.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so I'm just wondering if Gus was a tool for Missy in this case, because Missy wasn't even mentioned in the episode.
No, we did not get a mention at all. Um, I love the doctor talking to himself and read the odds and like, oh, you dropped him down by 24%. That's a lot. And I thought that was pretty fun and kind of a nice bit of writing.
Yeah, it's interesting the whole um, difference between the doctor and Clara, because like on one hand you've got the doctor talking to himself, but Clara calls Danny.
Hmm.
So she's not the only person the doctor can really relate to is himself, and he actually has a conversation with himself
Yes,
while Clara reaches out to Danny.
with the magical cell phone.
Yeah, yeah, the magical cell phone that's probably been augmented by the sonic screwdriver, like everything else.
That's what I'm thinking because that's a
Like
lot
Rose
of
Tyler,
bars.
well, Rose Tyler, just think of just
Yes,
think of all the minutes she racked up
yes,
talking to
exactly.
talking to Jackie back in the day.
Very much. The anything else about the monster you want to talk about before we move on to discussion about Claire and the doctor? And it started again. Okay, so anything else about the
Nope.
monster you want to talk about?
The only thing I was wondering is that like again, I was just talking about who was under there, and why what was so important about the foretold,
Hmm.
because this seemed to be a pretty important artifact, like with the whole the manuscript. And so the question is, like, I don't know, just it made me wonder about, like, again, who, the whole reason for bringing this in. Was it just a tool to that the mystery person that supposedly like is really powerful to arrange all this? Um, so I'm just wondering, again, like where this came from, or is it just one of those things that it's like a MacGuffin and it doesn't really have any significance at all?
You know, I don't know if we're going to get a payoff or not because they did set up there's a mythology.
Hmm.
There's supposedly a secret word or a riddle you could solve. You have the stasis they were trying to save because, on TV or movies, the military always thinks they can take the villain and weaponize it, the monster, you know, and you go like, have they ever watched a movie? Have they ever not seen how this works out? Um, so very, very, a lot of depths and a lot of backstory to put in if you're just going to drop it on this episode.
Hmm.
So we'll
Totally
see.
agree.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so this was supposed to be the doctor and Clara's last hurrah, and she's giving him the sad smile. They're supposed to be going somewhere fun. Um, and then she does a complete turnaround at the end. So tell me what you think about that.
Um, Clara apparently has been working this out in her head for weeks leading up to this episode. So there was at least a few weeks gap between Kill the Moon and this episode, where she was probably stewing over the whole thing, and then kind of came to the conclusion that okay, maybe she doesn't hate the doctor, but she felt that she had, like, as Danny referenced, dump him. She had to dump him, but I don't, obviously she wasn't ready to do that. And so, there was that whole initial, like, you know, guardedness on her part, and whether she wanted to really break things off. And, initially she sees this as, like you said, the last hurrah. But ultimately, by the end, she realizes, yeah, it's like, oh yeah, actually, I do want to stay. And interestingly to me, that she makes a point of lying to Danny about that she's breaking off things with the doctor because she chooses to stay with him, stay traveling, but gives Danny the impression, oh yeah, we're breaking things off, and then she turns around and lies to the doctor about what she told Danny.
Yeah, she tells the story to two, both the men in our lives. And I was really surprised at her turnaround. It, I'm not saying she didn't earn it, but I don't see what had he done that made her change her mind? Or did she just come to the realization she's an adrenaline junkie to a certain degree, the same way the doctor is? Because I thought it was significant. She says, you know, I don't want to do this anymore, not the way you do it, which is the implication to me is she's comparing him to the previous doctor, how he did the traveling.
Right.
So what's changed? Or did she just really just say she was kidding to herself? She doesn't want to stop this excitement.
Yeah, there definitely seems to be some inconsistency here with Clara, whether that's deliberate or it's just because of so many writers writing her different ways. Because you had a different writer writing Kill the Moon than you did with Jamie Matheson writing this episode. So it's hard to say because I mean, there's always that question about, well, did Clara really deserve, or did the doctor really deserve to be treated that way by Clara last episode? Or maybe she felt she overreacted in her way she treated him last episode, and maybe she's feeling guilty. Or, like you said, maybe she is indeed an adrenaline junkie and wants to go off and experience these things. But she expresses, you know, the her kind of frustration with the whole danger aspect. Like she gets on the doctor's case for this episode by saying, like you knew this was dangerous, and so we're still here anyway. So that still bugs her, but apparently she's cool with it enough to keep traveling with him. So yeah, she's kind of all over the place here. I think emotionally right now. Maybe it'll settle down or I know they had to resolve a lot of things quickly from last episode to get Clara to keep traveling the rest of this season, but it seems a little inconsistent on the writer's part.
One of the to mix my podcast for a moment. Um, Last season in the show Castle, they had the female lead go to Washington D.C. to be an FBI agent, and that only lasted 2 to 3 episodes. I think it's only two. And on Storming the Castle, the podcast we do about it, we made this comment that if you're going to do that, you should have engaged in it and at least a half a season, maybe even a full season of having that if you're going to make that story choice. So if you made it this early where Clara is, to use Danny's words, right, breaking up with the doctor, don't resolve it the next episode. I think that's not worthy of them or the show. If you're going to do that, have it. I mean, even if you're going to end your regular season with it and then go to the Christmas special and imply that it has been many, many months or even years, I just think that would have been a little better story choice.
Yeah, they did say a few weeks. So
Right.
they did explain that it didn't happen immediately, although from our perspective, the audience's perspective, it was pretty quickly.
Yes.
So I think it would have been better handled like maybe a little earlier in the season, like maybe around episode 3 or 4, and then kind of have Clara on Earth with Danny for a little bit, kind of like going back and forth. The doctor's off in space with the Clara and the Danny on Earth, and maybe they're getting involved in a mystery on Earth that kind of keeps them. And then the doctor, they eventually realize they have to contact the doctor for help, and that brings the doctor back into interacting with Clara and Danny again, so that they can patch things up. Then, that's the way I would have done it.
I actually would have wanted I was expecting a companion light episode, as they say. I really thought he was going to be on the train without Clara and kind of had that story. So
yeah, I think that was some really clever editing on the guys who did the trailers.
Yes.
To kind of like edit Clara out, so it's like, oh, you think it's just the doctor solo this time.
Yeah.
But guess what? She's actually there right from the beginning.
Yes, she is. In fact, at first I was like, is he bringing has he found another female companion? Like at first, and then immediately you could tell it was Clara, but just for a moment, for a half a second, I'm like, what? Okay, that's going to be interesting.
Well, he does have a knack for attracting them, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
It's the TARDIS. Chicks
Yes,
dig the
indeed.
TARDIS.
Yes. Yes, like it's the shoes back in the old Nike, it's the TARDIS.
Yep. Yep.
I want to talk about the other theme this season. That is that the Doctor is being hard or unlikable. I happened to read Alastair Wilkins from AV Club discussion, and he said that in his review, and I'm going to quote him, "If you allow me a moment, classic Who indulgence, this season in general, and this episode in particular, feel like what the 80s production team were trying to pull off with Colin Baker's Sixth Doctor, but did not have the skill or the vision to pull off." So, and we have a couple of emails that we're going to read, and you have not so much on the podcast, but kind of when we talk offline or via email, you are a little, not to put words in your mouth, but you don't want any doctor bashing. You tend to be a little more protective of your doctor. Do you think that he is becoming a little more unlikable this thought? And is that by choice?
I think to some extent, yes, because I think this Doctor's persona is a lot like, I don't know if the reference. Some people may not realize this, but it seems like he's a lot like Dr. Gregory House on the medical drama House. He's brusque and he's gruff and he's a little egocentric and arrogant, but he is brilliant and he knows what he's talking about, and he's the guy you want to go to when you need something done. So that's so yeah, I see a lot of Hugh Laurie's character in this Doctor, but I also again, I see Colin Baker's Doctor the way he should have been written to address that article, because yeah, I know that during the Colin Baker era, they softened Colin's Doctor a little bit during season 23 after their 18-month hiatus, and so that he and his companion Perry had that kind of friendly, likable banner, but they're still like friends going off on an adventure. And with this 12th Doctor, with Capaldi's Doctor, there's a lot of that. But I noticed they also addressed it in this episode when the Doctor just flat out asks Clara if she would be happier if he would just what's the word I'm looking for, that he if he was just to paraphrase, he was that arrogant and that jerky. So if she would prefer him to be that way as opposed to being the happy-go-lucky 11th Doctor that she knew, so that way it would be easier for her to break it off with him. And so that's the way I saw it.
Yeah, it was an interesting. I do find that, and I'm gonna blame a little of this on my friend Lou, Old Darth on Twitter, who is going to be visiting with us after the season ends. He's the one that says he always thinks the Doctor is a little too callous, and that's why he's not been a fan. And they explain it. He says if you have a gun against your head, you can't waste time mourning. But he does seem to, several times this season, have a matter of fact, to quote Scotty in The Wrath of Khan, right? He's dead already. He has this, they're dead and there's nothing we can do. Let's move on.
Yeah, I think it's just this Doctor is a very polarizing Doctor. You're either going to like him or you probably won't. Maybe you'll get to appreciate him more over time. I hope more people are appreciating him now than when this season first started. But there's definitely there is some people, and I think it's more newer fans than older fans, because older fans remember callous doctors like William Hartnell and John Pertwee and Tom Baker and Colin Baker, that they had that detachment, and that I go on so often about in these episodes. But the so I think there's a lot of old school in this Doctor that maybe newer fans are having a tough time relating to. They want the wacky Doctor, or maybe the energetic, fun Doctor. They don't want someone who's more serious, more withdrawn, harder to relate to. But a lot of people, on the other hand, seem to find that Doctor interesting, more three-dimensional, more substantive. So I guess it's just a question of your personality projecting onto the Doctor and projecting back about how you yourself are relating to that Doctor, that I think some people are having a tough time really connecting with. But on the other hand, I think a lot of people, myself included, um, they appreciate this Doctor's different. He's not what we've gotten the past two incarnations. He's more like, in recent terms, he's more like the War Doctor. So
Yeah.
I think that I think it's just up to personal taste, if nothing else.
Well, I certainly think it is one of those be careful what you wish for. Um, and I'm happy. I'm enjoying the ride. I do. eh, I tend to trust the storytellers, and I realize that sometimes the story they want to tell may not be the story I want to watch or read, but it's their story to tell. And so I enjoy the ride. I do think part of me wonders, did he really transport everyone off? Or then he talked about, no, I just saved you and I left everyone else to die. And it isn't, he acts like, oh, of course I didn't do something that ridiculous. You're going, well, no, I wouldn't put it past you. You know,
But he didn't have any animosity toward everybody else.
no,
So
no,
so because of that, you have to think, yeah, he just, for the sake of time, because these are only 45-minute episodes.
absolutely.
So it's not like the old days where you could draw this stuff out forever.
Yeah,
Um, these days, with that 45 episode format, and a lot of older fans are a little frustrated by that, because you can't, show scenes like the Doctor dropping these people off for the sake of
right.
time.
Yeah.
So you have to keep things moving.
Um,
So yeah, as far as I know, he dropped them off. I mean, I I no, and he's
yeah,
not a supervillain,
no,
okay? He's just a little grumpy.
right.
So yeah.
It was very, very and I liked that choice as far as the story to see Clara sleeping on the rocky ground and them having their talk. Um so let's talk about the almost companion, the engineer, Perkins, right?
Perkins, yes.
I really
Yeah,
liked him and
yeah,
I
he was really interesting, wasn't he?
yes, he seemed to have a lot more going on than he let go. He seemed to be a really good match with the Doctor, and I was a little disappointed that he didn't say yes, but I was kind of proud of that character because he knew himself well enough to say, traveling with you could change someone, and so I'm going to pass.
Yeah, this was a really interesting character to me. Yeah, he could have been a companion. I agree. And when the Doctor asked him, "Hey, you could stay and maintain the TARDIS," which I thought was really interesting, because the Doctor is normally so protective of the TARDIS,
Hmm.
and wanting, because it's like a guy with a hot car that he doesn't want anybody else to touch it,
Right.
and so he just wants to take care of it himself. But this time he made that offer. Now, this character was interesting enough that I thought that maybe he could be a recurring character, kind of like Strax or something, that maybe we'll see him again.
Yes.
And I think I'm all for that. So, and I like the fact that he had that snarky edge,
Hmm.
that he didn't just like just roll over for everything, and he's to like just kind of giving what he's getting back to the Doctor. So he held his own. So I thought that was really interesting and made him such an enjoyable character.
Yes. Do you know the guy who played him?
Not offhand. I mean, I'm sure I could look him up really quickly, but
It says here he is Frank Skinner,
yes,
and I do not know who he is. I'm thinking this is one of this
he's
where,
probably a British actor that, yeah,
yes, our British friends will
probably
go, "How the heck do you not know this guy, Jesse?"
exactly.
Hmm.
So apologies for that, but I guess we should have
Yes.
done our homework on that one.
Well, I'm pulling it up as we talk. The band I know was someone interesting. I really liked the song. That was kind of fun. Yeah, Frank Skinner's been a writer and an actor. So nothing that stands out to me. So
Okay.
our British friends, send us an email, tell us who this is, and have us, so we can embrace the greatness of it. Because I loved it. I thought his character was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, hopefully he'll be back.
Yes,
But
indeed.
but as far as the UK pop star Fox's
Hmm.
singing on the episode, I'm not as familiar with her. For one thing, it's pop music. That's not really my thing. But I did like the fact that she did a cover of Queen's "Don't Stop Me Now,"
Hmm.
which always makes me think of Shaun of the Dead, because there's a great scene there that uses that song brilliantly. And I've always been kind of a fan of Queen, so it was great to hear that, and I thought it was a really lovely cover,
Yes,
and complemented the train car setting perfectly.
absolutely. Um, all right. I love seeing the psychic paperback and the doctor being shocked that being a mystery shopper was what the guys was afraid of the most.
Yeah.
That was really, really funny. Let's see. Any other things before we get to favorite lines and rating, and then we have some emails to share.
Okay. One of the thing, excuse me. One of the things that I noticed during the episode was the return of jelly babies after a long absence, since the TV movie with Paul McGann's Eighth Doctor in 1996. So yeah, we got to see the return of the jelly babies and the doctor just casually flips them out in a cigarette case, which I thought that was hilarious. Instead of it's a Fourth Doctor staple, and old school fans will definitely appreciate that reference. Um, you mentioned the "Are You My Mummy" reset, which was great. Um, I thought it was pretty funny that Gus, the computer, offered grief counseling after the one of the deaths,
Yes.
because I just thought that was just I'm just picturing, like, okay, grief counseling. I'm like, what is this? This is like, are they imprisoned by some, like, overly sensitive high school principal or something? I
It
just
was really nice. Yes.
Yeah, I just made me laugh.
Hmm.
Um, I noticed that Danny finally told Clara that he loved her.
Okay. Yes.
That was the first time that happened. She's told him,
Hmm.
but he hasn't reciprocated until this episode. Um, and then that let's see. I guess that's pretty much it.
Okay.
There was
Yes.
one more thing. They made a reference to the episode The Big Bang, where at the end of The Big Bang, when the doctor, Amy, and Roy are about to head off into the TARDIS, the doctor picks up the phone and he's like, "Oh, there's like an Egyptian goddess, loose on the Orient Express in space." And
Hmm.
so they actually acknowledged that a little bit.
Yes, he did. I did not
Yeah,
catch that, but that is
yeah,
exactly. That's
that was one of
wonderful.
the reasons that the doctor had to come and check out the Orient Express, apparently.
Right, because
So
they've been trying to get him.
yeah, so I don't think that was deliberately set up way back when, although it's Moffat, who knows, but I think that was just like, oh yeah, we kind of said this way back when, we better acknowledge it somehow.
Good. All right. Favorite line.
Okay, my favorite line was, "You knew this would be dangerous." And the doctor responds, "I didn't know. I certainly hoped
All right. I thought you were gonna go with the on a good day on both.
Yeah,
Uh,
that was my backup.
yes.
Yeah,
So
where he says, "Yeah, doctor, I can't tell if you're a genius or incredibly arrogant." And the doctor responds, "Well, on a good day, I'm both."
yes. I think I'm gonna go with a very poignant, as I usually do. Sometimes the only choices you have are bad ones, but you still have to choose. And I think that is excellent life advice.
Hmm.
And I thought that was really well done. And how about rating?
You want to go first?
Yeah, I'm going to give it 8 drive stacks.
Oh, excellent.
Replace drive stacks that need replacing. Yes.
Nice job. I'm going to go with 8 out of 10 stopwatches.
Ah, very cool. Now I was asked this week that we tend to rate on the high side.
Hmm.
And so I was just going to say that I tend to watch Doctor Who with fan eyes. So even an episode that I'm really unhappy with, uh, it is hard for me to give it a failing grade.
Yeah.
And so that's why I tend to grade a little bit higher because I just enjoy the episode so much. Um,
Well, for me, Doctor Who is my all-time favorite show.
mhm,
And so, yeah, if I didn't like Doctor Who, I wouldn't be watching Doctor Who.
yes.
So, yes, and because it is my favorite show, that yeah, I'm gonna err on the high side. I thought this entire series so far has been filled with really good episodes. There hasn't been really a bad episode
No,
in the bunch so far.
no.
There's certainly nothing like like Love and Monsters, which is one of the episodes I hated.
Right,
So, but there's certainly nothing that makes me want to feel like I want to give it a 6 or a 4 or a 2.
right.
There hasn't just been any really doggy episodes in this one. There have been really smooth, and I think it's been a pretty balanced season so far. Um, we haven't given out any tens.
No,
So there is room for improvement here. We're not saying, oh, everything, like we're not like the American judge rating the American competition in the Olympics going 10, but
mhm.
we're just there is room for improvement, but I think overall this has been a pretty solid season.
Yeah, so do I, and I've been very happy with the storytelling. Like I said, I think I'm really proud how they're taking risks, not only with the Doctor, and and I've rated the Caretaker as my least favorite episode, but I would rewatch it in a moment.
Hmm.
So it is definitely the I there used to be a podcast that shall remain nameless that was really one of the first Doctor podcasts I listened to, and the two guys who did it ended up being unhappy with Stephen Moffat's run of the Doctor. They just didn't like where the stories were going. They didn't enjoy it, and so it basically turned into an hour podcast of them expressing how unhappy they are with the show. And I guess that could be some people's cup of tea, but that isn't mine. So I quit listening to the podcast
Yep.
because and this really does go back to Clara's, line about hatred is too strong emotion to waste on someone you don't like. Um,
Nicely played, sir.
Thank you. I love the Doctor. And so, it is, a bad day, there's an old saying, a bad day at the ballpark is better than a good day at the office. A bad episode of Doctor Who is more enjoyable than a lot of TV shows that are out there.
Yep.
And it is a good way to spend the hour. So just kind of give you a little explaining. Um, Not that, in fact, let's make that a challenge to ourselves. I'd like you to get one of the classic Doctor episodes that you think is not very good, and we should put that in our rewatch and kind of enjoy. We'll miss
We can
it.
we can Mystery Science Theater the
Yes,
episode.
that'd be very
There,
nice.
there are definitely several of those.
Hmm.
Um, and Yeah, we'll definitely do that. Just to
Okay.
but we'll preface it. We'll be like, okay, we're not. Yeah, we're deliberately making fun of this episode
Yes.
because we know it's a horrible episode.
Yes. Out of love.
But yeah, I don't really get why. I mean, I know people have different opinions, and that's great. I don't want to dismiss that at all. But I really don't get the people that are just hating on Doctor Who week after week after week, and they keep at it. I'm thinking, what if you don't enjoy the show? Why are you still watching it?
Yeah. I
I mean,
really
why aren't
enjoy.
you? There's
Yeah.
plenty of other great shows out there.
Yeah.
Maybe there's one that's more to your taste. Doctor Who isn't obviously for
Yeah.
everybody. And if you don't appreciate you see here now, watch something else. Really, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think fandom as a whole. I don't think fandom really needs all that negativity.
No.
There's too much of it, and I think the UK fans are even harder on the Doctor than American fans are.
Yes.
And they're harder on Moffat, and they're just I see them online, and they're just so brutal sometimes. I'm thinking, why are you even watching this show if you hate it so much?
Yeah. I really enjoyed the FX show The Bridge last season. It was a mystery set. The body was found on the bridge between the U.S. and Mexico border, and so a Mexican police detective and an American police detective had to work together, and it was a really good 13 episode series. I enjoyed it a lot. The second season just finished. I had ended up DVRing all of them, was going to binge. And about the third or fourth episode in, I went, I'm not enjoying this season at all. And so there was a time in my life when I would have had to finish it.
Mhm.
It's like when you're buying a mini series in the comic book, you're like, I have to, even though I don't like this, I have to finish it because I'm a completist. I just deleted them all from my DVR and I said, there's too much other stuff I want to see and I'm not enjoying it. And when the third season comes, I will check it out and see. But same thing. I, I like to watch, I like to have fun and watch the things that I love and that entertain me, and the Doctor does.
That's exactly right. That's the way
Yes.
as it should be.
So let's reverse the polarity. What's your suggestion this time?
This one should probably be a little obvious, given the setting, but I'm going to go back to 2008 with Series 4, episode "The Unicorn and the Wasp,"
Ah, very nice.
because again, this was a 10th Doctor and Donna episode written by Gareth Roberts, um, who wrote The Caretaker, I believe, recently. And this was set in 1926 England, kind of like the 20 setting on in Mummy on the Orient Express, even though it's in space. But that's
Yes.
regardless. That's neither here nor there. But you've got the 10th Doctor and Donna inviting themselves to a dinner party, and that includes none other than Agatha Christie. And Agatha Christie, as I mentioned earlier in this episode, that she wrote Murder on the Orient Express, which a lot of the idea
Hmm.
for Mummy on the Orient Express was kind of lifted from. So you've got Agatha Christie, and then you've also got another murder mystery with the Doctor going around questioning various guests. And it also ends up being a very science fiction-y explanation. So I think if you enjoyed Mummy on the Orient Express, Unicorn and the Wasp is definitely your next go-to if you haven't already seen it, because it's even if you have already seen it, because it's a great episode.
Absolutely. Good choice. It is and it's a really good example of the Donna and 10th Doctor interaction. Donna is not one of my favorite companions, but I do recognize that I am in a minority and that a lot of people love her and they love her and David Tennant's bantering back and forth. So, but that is a great episode and a really cool mystery. And once again, good costumes. So, yes.
Yes. For the record, I started off hating Donna in The Runaway Bride, but
Yes.
over the course of the season, of series 4. I really kind of warmed up to the character, and then I just think that her exit at the end of series 4, without being spoilery,
Yeah,
is just heartbreaking.
it is heartbreaking.
It's one of the most powerful exits
Yes,
for a companion ever.
absolutely.
And so it kind of and for someone who I didn't really like connect with at first, and I was like, when I first found out that they were going to make Donna a companion, I was like, oh no, but
Mhm.
she won me over.
Good. I'm going to do some quick. I'm not going to read all the emails, but we did get some nice feedback. Patrick Hiltz posted on our Facebook page. Thank you, Patrick.
Thanks,
Please, where are the
Patrick.
rest of you? I know this was about Kill the Moon. I know I'm too late for the recording, but I was wondering about this being the second episode this season where the Doctor and Clara had to tangle with the defense mechanism, the Dalek antibodies, and the moon spider bacteria. Coincidence? Or is this something that's popped up in the older episodes as well? So I would think that's directed to you, Mr. Charles.
Um, there is definitely, I think it's definitely a coincidence, flat out, because there's been other things like the episode "The Invisible Enemy," which I recommended during Into the Dalek, where you've got the Doctor dealing with antibodies and various organisms like of that nature. So, um, and it's happened in several episodes. Um, None really spring to mind at the moment, but I know I've seen them before. But so yeah, I think it's just one of those with science fiction. There are only so many types of stories you can tell, and the uh, the Doctor in the case of Into the Dalek, I mean the Doctor being shrunk down and facing things inside a body. Uh, that's happened before. So yeah, I just think it's just one of those that every so often it comes around, and yeah, maybe this season it kind of came up a little too recently after Into the Dalek, but I think they were handled very differently. So I think that kind of it wasn't a complete like, oh, here it is again.
No, and in fact, I had not connected the dots, so good job, Patrick. So nice. Brandon sent us an email, and this is where Charles rolled his eyes and was a little concerned. Hey, Jesse and Charles. So I guess when the doctor said into darkness, he wasn't lying. With the exceptions of Robots of Sherwood, it seems none of the episodes have taken place in the daylight, and I think I missed that. Now, the caretaker last had some scenes in the daylight.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because it was during school hours.
Yes.
So yeah,
It seems that he regenerated into an a-hole, not the same person I've come to like over the last 7 seasons. And
I take great issue with
yes.
that.
Um,
We've already gone through that, so
right.
yeah.
And he did say, though, I am happy she freaked out on him like she did, but when she was talking to Pink, it was like he was defending the doctor, almost telling her to give him some room and understand. I really liked his gravity test, and when he was upset that his face was on the internet, I wonder what's going to happen with those pictures. I guess I would give it 6 out of 10 moon eggs. And Brandon says, I am much more excited about the episode next week. Looks creepy, and the doctor will be back in front as the main character. So we'll have to see what Brandon thought. So you think he's being a little hard on our Time Lord?
Again, I think it's just up to personal taste.
Mm-hmm.
Some fans are gonna click with him, this doctor. Some fans aren't, and maybe hopefully he hangs in, because maybe he'll be won over at some point, maybe not, but hopefully he's at least still enjoying enough to keep watching.
Oh, he is, and he loves our podcast. Not to talk about, but in fact, Brandon sent an email and asked, "How's our podcast doing?" And then he said, "I guess I don't have anything to do about it, but I feel like I'm part of the group." So, thank you, Brandon. We're doing very well. Um, but we could always do better. Continue passing the word, everyone. The last thing, we got a wonderful email from Daniela Robbins, which is way too long to read in the episode, but
Yes, it
she
was.
talked about her and her sister Beck. there from down under, and
Hooray for Australia!
it was wonderfully thoughts. She was. They talk a little bit about being worried about if they could take this 12th Doctor without Clara, and they talked about in the past they would have been comfortable with maybe the 10th and the 11th Doctors without their companion. A lot of nice discussion about the moon episode, and about the that she isn't sure if they really meant it to be a pro-choice or pro-life allegory. She just thought they was just telling a story. I tend to agree with her too. I think that's other people reading into watching it and seeing their own, eyes. And she also had the moon, an egg. Really? I know it's sci-fi, but what? Anyway, um, so she also nitpicked about how do you put Tumblr in 2049? Oh, I know, the TARDIS is magic.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. That was really, really wonderful. So Charles, tell them how they can reach you and I, or
Okay.
you, and then I'll tell them how they can reach me.
Well, they can reach us at either Next Stop SMG at Twitter, like at twitter.com, or they can reach me at Charles Skaggs at Twitter, or I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Google Plus, and also there's my blog, Damn Good Coffee and Hot, which has suddenly become really popular with the revival of Twin Peaks in 2016.
Yes.
So yay for that.
You're
that was great foreshadow or great planning on my part. But
yes.
so yeah, you can. That's where you can reach me, especially if you're a fan of comics, sci-fi, or just Doctor Who, anything sci-fi geeky things in general.
Yes, you're going to be looking for a Twin Peaks co-host soon.
Yeah, I'm in the market because everybody that I want to bring on doesn't like Twin Peaks because they have no taste. No.
Yes. I have told Charles that I love podcasting with him, but I was never a big enough fan, so I told him that I would be, if we're going to do a rewatch, I would be kind of a newbie, that because I watched them all the first time when they came on the air, but I've not re-seen any episodes. I've never seen the movie. So we're planning as it gets closer to kind of do a rewatch, and so if we can get him another Twin Peaks fan to podcast with him, I'm going to be on as a newbie, kind of watching it, doing a rewatch, getting us ready for the new seasons.
Yep.
So, which is going to be exciting.
Yeah, I want Jesse to at least watch the pilot and see if he can appreciate it more that now that he's older.
Yes.
But and see what he thinks then, because yeah, I'd love to work with Jesse again. So
yeah, and I also think I remember this is, the Twin Peaks was the killing before the killing, right?
Yes,
They
yes.
did not
That
give.
it was before Broadchurch, which is Grace Point in the U.S. Yeah, the killing. It was a very serialized murder mystery.
And they did not give the answer that you thought you would.
No.
And so that's what I said about the killing. I remember that one thing Lynn and I do as we get off on a slight tangent, we still quote is, and I'm sure we're going to get it wrong, but we have misquoted it so long that it has become actual to us. I smoke when I'm stressed. Oh, what makes you stressed? Smoking. Yes, and I do recognize the greatness of the cast of Twin Peaks. Absolutely amazing the amount of people
Yep.
that are on that show. So
yeah, David Lynch directing and
yes.
co-creating. So yeah, and so you definitely had Kyle MacLachlan, Sherilyn Fenn, just so many great character actors that have appeared in David Lynch's films and projects. So and it's got a supernatural edge to it, so which distinguishes it from being just a straight murder mystery. So it does have a fantasy element to that.
Yes, it
which I
does.
think would definitely appeal. If you like something offbeat and quirky, I highly recommend checking it out.
Yes. Okay. I think that's gonna do it. We
Jesse,
flatline next week.
Jesse, where can they reach you?
Thank you. I can be reached at JWJ170104, and we are at Next Stop Everywhere SMG@gmail.com. Please like us on Facebook. Please go to iTunes and rate us and review us. It is the best way for other people to find us, because when you do a search for Doctor Who podcast, the algorithm looks at how popular we are. So that's the best thing. All right, I think that is it. Any last thoughts, Charles?
Absolutely none.
Okay.
I think we've had enough thoughts for today.
Yes, we did. Another great discussion. Look forward to next week. We're going to say keep hope alive. And I want you to remember, when you run with the Doctor, it feels like it will never end. But however hard you try, you can't run forever.
Nicely done.
Thank you, sir. And we will talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
If you would like to donate to help pay for this and other Southgate Media Group podcasts, simply go to our website, southgatemediagroup.com, and click on the donate button. It can be as little as $1 or, well, as much as you want. Help keep this fun going by supporting this and our other shows. Thanks again for listening, everyone. You're the best fans in the world.